AI will make the technical skills less relevant. It will make the domain understanding a lot more valuable. Over the next 15 years, 35 to 50% of all jobs will go. 90 to 98% of all current jobs will get impacted in some fashion. So everything will change. AI reskilling, upskilling is like a Kool-Aid. Everybody just has been parroting those words, without really understanding what the heck it means.
You're right, because digital led to creation of a lot of data. And I think data is like a crude oil, but unless you know how to extract and process something out of it, crude in itself is not the value if you cannot extract. They looked at the accuracy of a doctor using AI, and an AI prescribing the solution. And I was surprised with the data that I got through this research. They said doctors had an accuracy of 74%. Doctors using AI tools was 76%, and AI in itself was 90%.
We need a major pivot, which I don't think we are recognizing enough. We are still in some la la land. If we don't take major actions, we are going to be hit the hardest, because the growth in our economy over the last 2 decades has been driven by services. Those are exactly the services which are going to be impacted by AI first.
This idea of leapfrogging in India, oh, we missed that boat, but don't worry about it, we'll catch the next one. That seems to be ingrained in our thinking. No problem if the US is ahead or China is ahead, we'll leapfrog somewhere.
What's the fundamental difference and advantage of human intelligence over machine intelligence? It's the breadth, it's the vastness. Because when you talk about narrow intelligence, you can't beat the machine.
So here is another episode of Clearing the Blur with Nitin. Nitin, welcome to the show.
Deepak, very happy to be here.
Welcome, Nitin.
Hello, Rajiv.
And as we get started, we have a customary of starting with a rapid fire.
Okay.
So spirituality or strategy, which do you tap into first when making a tough call?
Spirituality, without a doubt. Because once that is there, strategy follows.
We'll talk a lot more about it.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll double click on that. What is one belief you held 10 years ago, which you have completely changed your mind on right now?
Right first time. Yeah.
You're saying get it right first time need not be the way of
Yeah. I think it is fail fast.
Okay, awesome.
And your personal definition of success in one sentence?
Yes, you can look yourself up in the mirror every day and feel comfortable with that. I think that is success.
Okay, pretty deep one. A habit every young professional should start today.
Reading books.
Okay.
And one industry that will be completely unrecognizable in 10 years from now?
Education.
Okay, awesome. We'll pick up these threads as we go along.
Absolutely.
That was a wonderful rapid fire. Thank you so much, Nitin, for this. We'll now move to a more detailed discussion, and I want to start this conversation with your childhood and upbringing. What we've understood is you were a shy and often sick child, right? And till basketball happened to you, and it transformed your energy, it transformed your personality, and it gave you energy and confidence. And we also came across a startup that didn't do too well in 2002. And you started introspecting, and then spirituality happened to you, and then you came up with this framework called Possible, right? So if you can walk us through your childhood experiences and what is this framework all about, that will be a wonderful start to a conversation.
Okay, that seems like the full conversation, but we'll get started. So yeah, I think I was, growing up, I was like the youngest of 3 siblings, and I think siblings over 9 and 12 years elder, very accomplished. So you always kind of grow in a little bit of that shadow. So in McKinsey, we have this term called the insecure overachiever.
Right.
So I don't know about the overachiever part, but certainly growing up, I felt like this. I was very introverted, and on top of that, I used to be quite, always have some chronic colds. So a lot of time, just spent reading.
Yeah.
And but I think you mentioned basketball. So I think the one good thing that happened was that my school was close to my home, and it had a good basketball team, and I just, like many middle class households, you just get into a routine. So I would go for basketball, and I never was good at it. But there came a point, maybe grade 10 or something, where I became good. There's just the power of compounding, and I think that was a very transformational thing for me. And I think that unlocked, I was good in academics, so I think it unlocked me in many ways. So that's where you see sports kind of referenced actively in many places in my journey, especially my third book. I think spirituality was not, was at a very early stage in my life. So I think one of the first books I read was the collected works of Swami Vivekananda, and that sparked, I don't know what, sometimes there's just a resonance. I was in maybe grade 4 or something like that, but I think it was a very powerful emotion that got unlocked. And one of my maternal uncles, he was a very successful person. He was the chairman of MTNL in early years of MTNL, and I really used to look up to him as a role model. So he was a Vipassana meditation practitioner, and so he, whenever he would meet me, he would say, "Okay, come sit down with me, do meditation." So that's where I started at a very early age. And when I went to IIT, my sister gifted me a copy of the Bhagavad Gita, and just something, and again, which made a big difference for me. So spirituality has been a very important part of my journey. So of course, I went to IIT, and then IIM, and then McKinsey, and so on. So a lot of my education and my journey has been the classical Western, business technology. But a lot of my grounding in who I am has been very influenced by the Indian spiritual traditions. So that's the combination that I think I am. And both my work and then also my writings, it kind of comes out in some way. So, and that's really what is also reflected in the possible framework. So that's the core of my third book, Human Edge in the AI Age. And the core thesis behind this book is that AI is becoming super powerful. It's becoming more human than humans. And in that process, humans are becoming narrower. So it's kind of, that's the issue. Now, there's a lot of conversation about AI, but it's a genie that's out of the lamp, so you can't do much about it. So the part of the equation you need to really focus on is the human part, which is what I focus on. And my thesis is that AI age is perhaps the end of the era of jobs. And we can talk more about it in our conversation, but it also heralds the era of entrepreneurs. And therefore, this is, I give a call to almost go back to the pioneering and adventurous spirit of the early man.
Right.
It's not that we're going to go back to caves, but the world that we have carefully constructed over the last 200, 300 years is going to get deconstructed over the next 10, 15 years.
Right.
So it's kind of going to be a brave new world.
Yeah.
And that's the spirit we need. That's the spirit of the early man. And then now, how do you make that into a practical construct? And that's where the possible framework comes in. It's kind of an anagram, which is 8 timeless mantras: problem solving, openness to change, spirituality, sports, impact, balance, leadership, and entrepreneurship. So yeah, it's kind of, it's kind of nothing which is out of syllabus, so to say. It's all the core intrinsic, human qualities, which is what I believe we need to double click on. And in many ways, these are also directly coming from my life experiences.
Awesome. So just an observation, the number of conversations Deepak and I have had around AI, the topic and the conversation eventually leads to some level of spirituality, especially in the Indian context. When we spoke to Umakant Soni, he referenced Sri Aurobindo's work. Shrikant Velamkani of Fractal, he spoke about Vivekananda's work and all of that. I wonder if that's India's, offer to the rest of the world on how to marry the two areas.
No, it absolutely is. I think there is a deep connection, between the two. To begin with, the way I have tried to even understand the structure of AI I have relied on a frame from the Yoga Sutras. And you may be aware that Indian spiritual texts are inquiries very, very focused on answering this one question, which is who am I?
Right.
So a lot of it is about understanding self. And Yoga Sutras have this very interesting frame, that it's kind of multiple levels. You have Buddhi, which is like the universal intelligence. You have Aham, which is the meta form, and then Manas, which is the I, me, myself, the analytical processing mind. And if you look at parallels to AI, you see GenAI, which is kind of like the universal intelligence.
Right.
And then you have the more traditional AI, which is enterprise, domain specific. And then you have at the individual level, which is hyper-personalization. So it's fascinating, that the structure of AI and the structure of self, in Indian traditions, there is such a close connection. And this point I make that machines are becoming more human than humans, and humans are becoming narrower. When you look at this frame, you can see that.
True.
Because what's happening with AI is that there is a continuous information flow happening across those three levels. And it's compounding. That's why it's becoming, even if it's not there today, it will get there tomorrow. Whereas for us as human beings, that natural connection that existed with that universal consciousness, Buddhi, which is where wisdom comes from, which is where appreciation of art and beauty comes from. In the very digital world that we are in, and we are, getting into what I call digital cocoons, that is getting fractured.
Right.
Yeah. So that's where you can see it, that with AI, this loop is happening across levels.
Yeah.
Whereas for humans, this loop is getting fractured.
Right.
So, if you get that, that's kind of like the starting frame for my book.
Awesome.
Now, I think where you are going, and we'll spend more time, because the whole human consciousness and elevating the human consciousness in an AI era itself is a big
need.
topic.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think we'll just quickly go into a little early part of your journey before we come back to this. I think you started, you had a pretty successful career, like you mentioned McKinsey, but also I think you were at Flipkart during the time of their hyperscale and growth.
Yes.
And then you went on to at Incido, where I think one of the things you speak about and which resonates with me pretty much is the convergence of data, digital, and AI.
Yes.
Because somewhere I think there is a value that lies on how you look at each of these, all three individually, but also the intersection of these. And also I think you speak about the famous trilogy of Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. I use this in another context because, again, being in digital, I always used to say we have a lot of Brahmas and Vishnus in banking and financial service, but very few Mahesh, because we don't want to destroy to rebuild.
Yes.
I think you have used it in another context, but but I think transformation, rather in your context, Mahesh, is more around how you are leveraging to transform and continuously change. So I think, can you just unpack this metaphor to our listeners? The convergence of the three and this whole Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, that trilogy.
Yeah, it's the digital data AI, as you very rightly said, Deepak, they are kind of individual forces, but they are deeply connected. And each one of them is a cause and effect of each other. So digital, of course, is what has led to the data explosion. And data explosion, along with that of compute power and memory, is an extraordinary thing that has happened over the last 10 years. So 90% of the data of the world has got generated over the last 2 to 3 years. So, and it is all because of the digital explosion led to this data explosion, which is the foundation for AI and for GenAI. So it kind of feeds into that. And we know that traditional AI has been around for a while, and it was always very tough to do anything with it because data was not there.
A conversation like this is the data now, rather.
Exactly. And the reason GenAI has been such an unlock is that because it brought the data of the world, especially unstructured data, into play. And so you got off this starting problem. That where do we start from? Now then, AI itself is then further influencing a lot of the digital experiences. So not just personalization, but hyper-personalization. And even if you look at data and some of the most data is a very tough beast. And my second book is called Mastering the Data Paradox. That's a paradox: water everywhere, yet not a drop to drink. And you have these, the two endemic issues with data are data quality and data security. And again, really the only way of managing both is AI. So it's digital data and AI have this very, it's like a vortex, it's kind of feeding into each other. And that's where I call it the trifecta. That, you really have to, think about the three forces together. These are the three forces which are, I think, the most fundamental forces, driving not just technology transformation. Business transformation has equal technology transformation today.
No, absolutely. And I think you're right, because digital led to creation of a lot of data. And I think data is like a crude oil, but unless you know how to extract and process something out of it, crude in itself is not the value if you cannot extract. I think the other question around it is, what are the major differences and commonalities that you see between your role at Flipkart and at Incedo now?
Yeah, it's, I think Flipkart, when I joined, it was already a very large machine. And it was like driving this high-speed, not Ferrari, but high-speed truck in the bylanes of Chandni Chowk in Delhi. So every twist and turn, was a high-risk maneuver. And Incedo is the company, the founder of the company. It's very different for me that, when I was at Flipkart, we were already $7 billion. I think we had 45,000 people, which eventually reporting to me. And, Incedo, you kind of building, from ground up. And, you may have the vision, but, it's, you have to go through many steps. You have to earn the right. You can't, it's not that easy to make a big giant leap. You have to progress to a next level in terms of your capability as a business, to then take the next leap. So I think that was a reality check for me, because not just Flipkart, but even my role at McKinsey, where I was heading the McKinsey Knowledge Center and very involved in driving innovation and transformation, or Fidelity Investments, where I was the CEO for India, heading strategy transformation for all of Fidelity's international business. These were like big roles, very big roles. And then, as an entrepreneur, it's a very different level of, when I was at Flipkart, I think we had the third largest management consulting firm within Flipkart. We had 70, 80 ex-McKinsey BCG consultants. And then, at Incedo, I'm making like charts myself, so it's a very different, just coming to brass tacks, and very different, level of being involved in the detail. But it has a very different sense of, both ownership and kind of, excitement to it.
But I think both gave a purpose for what are you building and in spending your time on, right? So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's the thing about me, that I'm always very, very driven by a sense of purpose. Whether it was, back in my hostel in IIT Delhi, and where, winning the general championship for our hostel was a huge purpose, or at McKinsey, building the McKinsey Knowledge Center. I think that's the way I am. I'm very, very driven by that sense of purpose and making a difference. And whether it's a large enterprise or, you're building your startup ground up, I think that's very important, because, from anything you do, there will be ups and downs. And, just from a financial perspective, I think there comes a point in any journey when just the economics don't make sense.
Absolutely.
And you have to keep going, and you have to keep going beyond the economics. And it's the purpose, which is what keeps you going.
Oh, absolutely. I think this is one conversation I had with many folks who often get lost into just doing more of same without figuring out exactly why are they doing it.
The true north, in other words. Right.
Yeah.
So now, double clicking on AI, you've spoken about the impact of AI, and you've compared this to the discovery of the wheel, discovery of electricity, and so on. So what signals convinced you that this is not just another tech wave or a tech trend, and something this can create an impact at a civilizational level. So that's question number one. And you've also spoken about AI era creating hundreds and thousands of new problem statements. Can you double click on that? So while you do that, one challenge I have on the electricity comparison is electricity still needs a human, right? Whereas AI seems to have a mind of its own. So is it maybe even beyond electricity from that perspective?
Yeah. Some philosophers say that there have been so far 200 general innovations, and AI is the 200th and probably the last one. So I hope that's not the case. But going back to Rajiv, your question that why do I see it as such a mega force? Right. It goes back into the conversation we had about the structure of the self. Yeah. I think it has got deep connection to that. I think the fact that with AI, we are now able to bring the data of the world into play is a huge deal. So that gives us the buddhi, the buddhi capability, which we never had. We never ever had that. So that's a huge deal. And with that buddhi, we also have the continuous learning opportunity. So I think the combination of these two forces is a remarkable achievement or a force, and I think that's unstoppable. That will just keep on keep on progressing. And what is happening with this is that many activities that we thought were very human, and I'll take a few examples. Now AI is certainly doing that. Of course, with sometimes the debate very naively kind of flips between 0 and 1. Yeah. That either it can do everything and there is no need for humans, or it can do nothing. The reality is somewhere in between. But let's look at this. So problem solving, problem solving is the heart of everything we do, certainly all business. And machines have already been very good at many aspects of problem solving, especially the analytical aspect. Right. If you have to do 36,284 into 496 or something, while all of us may believe that we are very bright, but the machine is going to do it better. Yeah. But what we always, the human aspect was the problem definition, the problem identification. That was a very uniquely human thing. But with GenAI, now, and again, having absorbed the data of the world, any problem out there, you can get an initial 40, 50, 60% answer, which is a huge thing. So, this whole problem, the way you solve problems, that's going through change. The way you do research, scientific research, otherwise is going through a change. Then the whole creative process. There's all this thing that, the creator, creation cannot be bigger than the creator and all of that. See, these are all good in philosophy. That over the last months, just because I published my third book, I've had, opportunity of having conversations with a lot of very interesting people I would normally not talk to. I spoke with a lot of folks from Bollywood, some of the top directors, Ashutosh Gowarikar, Mohit Suri, Sohali Khan, and fascinating how aware they were of AI. And how much they were beginning, they are already using this as part of their process. Now, of course, they still are very much kind of bringing in their creativity, finally, as at the end of the process. But so much of the creative process is now being driven by AI. It's fascinating. So all of this is IQ. Then you say, okay, EQ, that's really the human thing. And, you look at ChatGPT, the number one use case for ChatGPT globally is for counseling.
Right. Yeah. Mental health.
I think 22% was the last data I read that.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating. And there have been, so it's not just that, there have been a lot of research, and I cite that in my book as well, that, hospitals, they've done these tests, blind tests between online, human nurse and AI. And AI has scored 9 out of 10 times, better than the human nurse on empathy. Yeah. Empathy. So it's just fascinating, that a lot of what has been very human characteristics, is, AI is getting there, and that's where, I believe that this is a huge huge deal. Now, I still believe that, we are far from this notion of AGI or human intelligence. That's a separate debate. We can maybe double click into that. Now, coming to the second part of your question, Rajiv, which was about why am I so excited about AI from an entrepreneurship perspective?
Right.
Now, all of what we talked about, you can kind of translate that into 4 forces that are transforming business. The first is personalization.
Yeah.
And personalization started with digital, Deepak, to your point. But with now AI, it's gone to a completely different level with hyper-personalization. And think about it, that, one of your rapid fire question was that which industry, I believe will see a most change in 10 years. Think about what we already have with e-commerce and entertainment.
Yeah.
Why would that not happen in healthcare?
Or education.
Or education.
Yeah.
Education is a classic example that if you think about the model of education, at least in the Indian system growing up, it was the Gurukul.
Yeah.
Where you would spend a lot of time, small set of students, the guru would spend a year just observing. And then, for each student, there was this is who you are. And based on that, this is, maybe your goal. And this is the education you go through. Not scalable.
Yeah.
Not scalable.
Yeah.
And now just think about it, that with AI and digital and data, with the trifecta, you can have that personalization at scale.
Yeah.
Education is the classic thing that, of course, we know that all of us as humans are different, but we subject ourselves to the same method.
One size fits all kind of a model.
And it's now, there's a lot of research that the teacher tends to adjust the pace to the 90th percentile.
Yeah.
Just think about it. You know what happens to the rest? Yeah. So I think personalization is a huge opportunity. Then automation. Of course, we know about it. And Deepak, I think before we started this chat, you were mentioning about cost, right? So of course, automation is driving things at a dramatic level, and it's now of not just actions, but of decisions, and not just decisions, but of thought.
Yeah.
And this is all, not the blue collar jobs. This is all the knowledge worker jobs.
Right.
Yeah. And so we see that happening. Innovation. So, I do a lot of work in the pharmaceutical industry, and, a huge issue is drug discovery. It takes years and billions of dollars for drug, discovery and development. And you can, cut that by an order of magnitude, using AI, using synthetic data and so on. And finally, all of this coming together into new business models,
Right.
which are about disintermediation, which is about silos, different industry silos kind of collapsing and merging into each other, which is about how there's a front to back compression happening, how infrastructure layer is becoming so much more powerful. Finally, all coming into what I call AI native business models, which are not just a logical progression, what we have seen from digital, but which I think is a big leap. Okay.
Yeah.
So while digital to AI at one level may seem like, okay, this is a very
linear progression.
But and the dimensions are probably similar in terms of personalization and automation, innovation, and so on. But the magnitude of shift is very significant.
Yeah.
And digital was largely about applying a new tool, to the physical. So it was really about going from physical to that digital. AI is different. AI, if we apply AI on today, or rather yesterday's problems, we are only going to realize incremental value, which is, I think, the problem happening right now.
Yeah.
So it has to be really about creating the future. Now, for legacy enterprises, that's not going to be easy. That's not going to be easy. So, when digital happened, and I wrote my first book, Winning in the Digital Age, its thesis was largely that legacy enterprises, they get these things right. Actually, the physical plus digital is going to be a great combination, which is how it has played out. But my thesis is kind of more dire right now, that it may not seem like that today, because AI is still kind of getting going. But once it picks up steam, I think the AI native business models will be very difficult to compete with. And that is the opportunity, Rajiv, for entrepreneurs,
Right.
for
And
young companies.
Digital has a characteristic of winner take all. Right. You might remember the first video sharing site in the marketplace. You might not even remember the second one. Right. With AI, it seems like that's going to get even more
exacerbated.
Yeah.
No, I think you just rightly said, and I was thinking, reflecting on my journey, being a chief digital officer of a bank over 10, 12 years. Precisely, I think we use set of tools and technology to change existing business model. It was not a technology is the business itself. I think AI is changing where you're not embedding AI into what you do, but AI is becoming the business.
Yeah.
Like just to explain, and I was just looking at another data point a few days back, it came to my light. And this research was done recently that they looked at the accuracy of a doctor in itself, a doctor using AI, and an AI prescribing the solution. And I was surprised with the data that I got through this research. They said doctors had an accuracy of 74%. Doctors using AI tools was 76%, and AI in itself was 90%.
Wow.
And I mean, it just doesn't really make sense. But then when you double click on that, you realize doctors still don't know how to use AI
Of
tools.
course.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times it's human in the loop that is not trained enough. We all learned how to use computer and internet, and we thought AI is something we can learn and we can deal with. But I think AI is just not another tool, but it's the way in which they are learning faster than humans can.
And that reminds me of a story from 1990s. Gary Kasparov lost to the IBM supercomputer.
Yes.
And then he didn't obviously like that outcome, that he lost to a computer. And he said, this is unfair. The computer has millions of records of data. I don't have anything.
Right.
So let's do the human plus machine combination. And apparently in 2008 or 2009, in the freestyle chess championship, the human plus machine combination systematically beat the machine. So maybe we are yet to see that happening in many areas where the human readiness for AI, if it...
See, I think both are true. And I think it is quite contextual to the type of process. I think there are, generally, I think it is, Rajiv, I think where you were going, that's what I see, Deepak, in real implementation with banks and telcos and pharma companies that I work with, that, the promise and the excitement we see in the B2C use of GenAI has not yet translated into the enterprise use of AI.
Absolutely.
Because, for our use, it's like a toy, and you get like a cool answer and it's so exciting. It doesn't really matter whether it is at 80-90% accuracy or not. But if you're a bank and you're making a credit decision based on a LLM model, you can't be at like 70%. And today, a lot of the AI applications are, it's been tough to get, we very quickly got to like a 60-65%. Very quickly, and that raised a lot of excitement.
Right.
It's been very tough to go from 65 to 75, 80%. And that's where this thing called context comes in.
Yeah.
Because when you look at complex decisions and being able to model the human decision making is very context driven.
Right.
And that's where complicated things like ontologies come in, and it's not that easy to map. So I think in the short medium term, I think we're just getting to that point that there is a reality check happening, that maybe the excitement or hyper excitement we felt with GenAI maybe a couple of quarters back, there is a reality check. I think that's going to continue for some time. That may even lead to maybe some market correction or this bubble, AI bubble crashing. But I think anything which is leveraging the data of the world and anything which is constantly growing and improving is hard to
I think the models never sleep. They're learning all the time, and humans are not. I think we were talking about this during our shoot before. But I think the reality is, if not today, I'm sure it's a matter of time. Like your FSD in US, your self-driving model.
Yeah, it's
I think it's far more accurate and better than what a human drivers do. Probably you couldn't say the same thing 5 years back, or probably the way Waymo today is the way in Bay Area and many other cities.
Yeah, I start my book with the Waymo example. That's the first thing I talk about, because if at all there is any confusion or argument about where AI is headed, travel in a Waymo. Like driving in like San Francisco, again I go back to my Chandni Chowk example, is no different. And this dude is not like a safe driver, he or she they changes lanes, it speeds, it stops. It's like fascinating.
Awesome. Yeah. And they charge a premium. So that was another surprising thing. I recently had the similar experience in SF, and I realized Waymo is not cheap. Waymo is rather more expensive because of LiDAR and all the other technology that they put. But I think that has put a lot of drivers off the job, right? And I think one of the other things that we often talk about is, will AI lead to job losses? What kind of jobs? In the interim, probably people who know how to use AI will still be relevant. But gradually, I think we will move towards area where AI can do a lot more and lot accurately, like we spoke about medical, radiologist, looking at images, billions of images, humanly just not possible.
Right.
So I think when we look at the overall job and career, and this is also to people who are watching, a lot of them are working with enterprises, people who are curious to see how their career will get impacted. Which industry segment and the kind of jobs that you think will get hit first and the fastest?
So look, the impact on jobs is very significant. So if you look at the numbers over the next 15 years, 35 to 50% of all jobs will go. That's a rather...
That's a scary...
You're not saying will get transformed. You're saying it will go.
90 to 98...
You're saying it will disappear.
Yes, 90 to 98% of all current jobs will get impacted in some fashion. So everything will change, including what any one of us is doing here. Out of that, 35 to 50% will go. So that's a couple of billion jobs. Okay, so everything will get impacted. In the short term, it is unfortunately the white collar knowledge worker jobs that are going to be impacted more than the blue collar worker jobs. So over the next 5 years, for every single blue collar worker job lost, there will be 10 knowledge worker jobs lost. Knowledge worker jobs that will be lost. That's what the jobs that we really dream about, and jobs that I have done,
So city like Bangalore, which is thriving on a knowledge worker economy.
So, the technologist, the management consultant, the investment banker, the marketeer, the lawyer, it's those jobs that will get impacted first. Okay. What can be done? Now, eventually, to me, it's about end of the era of jobs, but the era of entrepreneurs. And I think we have to break this mindset. More than a skills thing, it's a mindset thing that not everybody can be an entrepreneur. That's complete nonsense. Now, if you just go back a little bit into history, this whole thing about jobs is a last couple of 100-year phenomenon.
Industrialization.
It's an industrialization. Pre-industrial era, most of us would be what we will call self-employed.
Right. Hunters, gatherers, farmers.
Agriculture.
You don't have to go back that far.
Yeah, industrial economy that led to the factories of the world.
Yes, and we have got addicted to that. And so in one of the conversations, as part of my whole book tour, one of my friends, Pramad Sinha, kind of gave the slogan "Har Ghar Vyapar." Every house needs to be a business, and I think that eventually is the way to go. Now, okay, what are the steps to getting there? Now, I think this whole thing about AI reskilling, upskilling is like a Kool-Aid. I'm sorry, but I think it's just like everybody just has been parroting those words, without really understanding what the heck it means. Now, how difficult is it to learn how to use Copilot or ChatGPT? What the heck are we saying? It's like a very basic thing. Of course, you need to learn that, and that's how you realize the initial productivity advantage. But that's not going to save your job. That's not going to save your job. Okay.
So how should country like India think?
the key skill is what we spoke about, which is context. AI will make the technical skills less relevant. It will make the domain understanding a lot more valuable. And that is simply, in the short, medium term, the biggest shift we need to make from teaching people just .NET or Java or whatever. See, what's the fastest growing programming language today in the world?
It's vibe coding.
It's English.
English, yes.
Yeah.
It is English, isn't it? So, that's how it is going to go. Now, there is going to be a role for computer scientists, engineers, but you really need to be a deep tech guy. If you're just like a general programmer, that job is the one which is going to get impacted the fastest. But if you are a domain specialist who knows banking well, who knows telecom well, now that is going to still be valuable for quite some time, till that we were speaking about the human in the loop. And you were already giving like an example, where the human in the loop is not required. But let's say that the human in the loop is still generally required for some time. Your role in the loop is going to be driven by the context. So that domain understanding in the medium term is going to be the key thing. But in the long term, it's not human in the loop. In the long term, it will have to be human above the loop.
Interesting.
It will have to be human above the loop, which is where creativity and creating something new comes in. One of the things you said, Deepak, was, it's about cost. No, I would argue it's actually not about cost. See, that's the obvious thing to do. That's the obvious thing to do. And everybody is doing that. And very fair that even realizing that is not that easy. You have to go through a lot of preparatory stuff for that. But if you generally look at the large markets in the world, you look at United States and you look at the big industries there, banking, Deepak, that extremely well, or telecom or whatever industry you look at, the organic growth is close to zero, is 1 to 2%. The biggest issue is growth. And the way you drive your top line is through cross-sell, upsell, and managing your churn.
Yeah.
So the biggest opportunity is, frankly, can we use AI to drive that next level of, proposition, which will serve new customer needs, which will kind of spur growth. See, that is the opportunity. That is the human above the loop. Anything which is defined is just a question of time.
Yeah.
Right.
Whether it's a year or 10 years, eventually the Waymo will take over.
But I think in this context, how should India be thinking about its national economic strategy? Because I think our challenge will continue to be, we are dealing with huge population. A lot of them are not necessarily skilled. I think our current business model of being probably the service sector to the world, and a lot of that business today is driving the economy.
It has to be, we need a major pivot, which I don't think we are recognizing enough. It needs to be like, see, it kind of exercises me so much. I'm here like every month. My business is in the US, but I'm here every month because I feel so strongly about it. We are still in some la la land. If we don't take major actions, we are going to be hit the hardest, because the growth in our economy over the last 2 decades has been driven by services. Those are exactly the services which are going to be impacted by AI first. And then we have this huge youth pyramid, unlike many European countries or even the likes of Japan and South Korea. So they welcome it because they have a declining population. We have a very different problem. So for us, it's a huge thing. Now, equally, it can be a huge opportunity. If we turn this from being a services nation, we want to become a product nation. If a small country like Israel can become a product nation, and the global cybersecurity, and like just not that one vertical, that they have really become a powerhouse in like so many areas, why can't we? We have the tech foundation, we have the digital natives who are becoming the AI natives. But it's like a revolution. Okay, it's a tsunami of entrepreneurship that we have to unleash, which is not as much a skills revolution, as a mindset revolution, where there are at different levels. It has you use the words national economic policy. I think it has to start there. IT industry happened thankfully because the government just didn't know what to do. So it could just happen. But here it is needed. Why it is needed? Because infrastructure today which supports AI and AI startups in the future is expensive. That's the problem with AI today. The compute, the models, all of that is expensive. And I think we also have our DPI, our digital public infrastructure. We have done a great job there that provides us a potential opportunity to just rethink that, upgrade that, to really become an AI enabling ecosystem, where we are providing compute, we are providing, models, we provide, the abundant data that we have, we are bundling that into data services. Maybe these are industry area specific, which we provide for, agriculture startups, education startups, healthcare startups, fintech startups. So see, we have to do that at a policy level. At the education, infrastructure level, there has to be a revolution. Right. You can't be thinking about education in the same way. There is a, today you look at, Silicon Valley and, you look at a Stanford and Berkeley, they are not colleges. They are ecosystems.
Right.
They're ecosystems, where startups, big tech, venture capital, and the university, and of course the students who are the hero of the story, they all kind of come together.
And they're building for the world.
They're building
so
for the
I
world.
think the vision is equally important. What are you building for?
Yeah, but why can't that happen? And then it has to translate also at the level of, parents.
Yeah.
Yeah, that, what is it? There has to be a realization. So it is a multi-level change.
Sure.
I think we have the opportunity. I think we can, I think we have a very interesting opportunity, because right now you have the American model, you have the Chinese model. I think there is an opportunity.
I think the world needs a model which is for the whole global south. And I think India is a perfect
is well placed for that.
To build it for probably
but
two-thirds of the humanity.
But it is not as is. It is not, like if it's not business as usual, that, and I think that's what I worry about, that I hear, our, politicians and leaders, speak about it. And it's kind of like, oh yeah, we are doing it. Arey Baba, this is like it's a huge deal.
I think it needs an exponential change in mindset. Right. Rajiv, to the next one.
So in terms of the mindset, I think one thing that we are tracking as a conversational theme is this idea of leapfrogging in India. Oh, we missed that boat, but don't worry about it. We'll catch the next one. That seems to be ingrained in our thinking. No problem if the US is ahead or China is ahead. We'll leapfrog somewhere. So somewhere, I think that mindset of leapfrogging, maybe we got lucky with the last couple of revolutions that happened.
Even telecom, probably.
Telecom for that matter. So that's one thought that comes to my mind in terms of, what is the right mindset for something like this. And I want to also double click on what you said in the previous answer, right? The possible framework. What occurred to me is the problem identification. Solving AI can do. Openness to change. I think AI, the versioning that's happening with AI. So just across the possible framework, probably AI is better placed than the human. But when it comes to problem identification, yes, this is a problem to be solved. I don't think intrinsically AI has figured that out yet, right? So maybe that's the human edge, there needs to be a P in front of possible, right? That's the addition to the framework. And also on Jeffrey Hinton, right, when he was asked, what are you preparing? How are you preparing for the future? He said, I'm learning plumbing.
Right.
To your point on white collar and blue collar jobs.
Right.
But then there is also this criticism of him, where when he 10 years ago made a prediction about radiologists, I think you spoke about it. He said, 10 years from now, there won't be any radiologists. But today, there is a demand for radiologists and it's just skyrocketing. So maybe some of these technology predictions, because there are second order, third order effects, we don't possibly see it. That's the optimist in me thinking even in the short to mid-term, humans will be around. We will be needed because there are new problems that are getting created that AI is not prepared for. Any take on that?
Yeah, look, the book I have written is Human Edge in the AI Age.
Right.
So I've written it because I believe there is a human edge.
Yeah.
And I believe that it's game on.
Yeah.
So I for sure don't have a dystopian view. But at the same time, I think we should also be careful not to just kind of get caught, in this utopian view.
Yeah.
Okay, I think there is a lot to be done, and my point is that, look, as humans, see, we are like a tough race. There were many Homo species, as we know. The Homo sapiens won, not because we were the strongest and blah blah blah, because we were the most adaptive, and I think we can adapt. Okay, but what I also do fear is that the past centuries of this a very comfortable world has dulled our instincts. Yeah. So I think that's where it's game on. We have to really get on with it. So the human opportunity is not going away. Yeah, it is just it's in a different way. There is a lot more creation, and for creation there is a lot more risk taking. So I think that's what we need to focus on. So not for a second do I believe that AI means the end of the human race.
Nitin, I think we also spoke a lot about the spiritual part of it, both you and how it impacts AI. I think today, one of the things you spoke about is the Sri Aurobindo's idea of humans as evolutionary project. I think my first question to you is, how has this shaped your worldview to the leadership? And I think second part of this is, when we think of spirituality in the era of AI, what humans need to do to keep evolving when AI is becoming more conscious, more aware, and going beyond just IQ and EQ. So when we talk about the spiritual quotient, which is a SQ, my fear is AI will come and tell humans over a period of time how they need to live and conduct their lives better. I think part of it that we spoke about, the story of ChatGPT and US, clinical psychology, and humans are not able to even deal with themselves. And I think that's where they are taking recourse in AI solutions. So I think your thoughts on both the spiritual quotient in itself and also how you see this evolving in an AI era.
Yeah. See, my fundamental belief is, Deepak, that as humans, we are only utilizing a fraction of our capabilities. Whether it's 2% or 10% or 20%, we can argue about it, but it is only a fraction. And for us to really not just survive but thrive in the AI age, the basic point is that how do we now realize and use as close to that 100% as possible. And that is where I believe the spiritual quotient becomes so important. I believe that's the unlock. Yeah, so we have the physical and intellectual and emotional. There is always, we are all spiritual beings. That buddhi is always there. Okay, we don't access it. Yeah, that connections have become very weak. Maybe it's just and if you again go back to our traditions, spirituality and science were a continuum for us.
Yeah.
And I very much see it that fashion, because it's all answering what's the unknown, but there are just different methods of doing it. Science is about using facts outside. Spirituality is a process of going inside yourself. It's a different method. The questions are not different.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's my fundamental view, and I think you referenced Sri Aurobindo, and he talked about Superman and super consciousness 100 years back. 100 years back, he talked about it, in so much detail, and a method for doing that. It seems so relevant at this point, where we're having this debate about AI and consciousness. Now, again, just going back to something I mentioned earlier, that human edge in the AI age, and one part of it I mentioned was going back to the that pioneering, adventurous, survival instincts of the human being. And see, because a lot of our reflexes, and there have been many studies on these, that what is long term, what is it that humans will do better than AI, and it basically comes down to the core survival instincts. That's what human beings are best at. Yeah, and that is still going to be our advantage. So that's one part of it which we all already spoke about. But the other part is this expanded consciousness. This expanded consciousness, and because that expanded consciousness, I believe, is the root for creativity, for clarity. You talked about problem identification. That means like a very deep understanding of here is the pain point. Yeah, and then we say creativity, which goes beyond the creativity that machines are going to drive, which is a lot more multidimensional. What is this going to be the source of that? That's the expanded consciousness. Yeah, and that is where I believe spirituality and the spiritual processes come in. And for me, it's a very practical, applied, and felt thing. Yeah, that it's my process that before any client meeting or even before this conversation, I was like tired. I just flown in from the US. Then I was in Pune yesterday. 4 things there, and then I flew to Bangalore. It's already my 4th meeting today. So while I was waiting, I did 10 minutes of dhyan, and I just felt so much clearer, and energized, and that's my process, and that's really what I'm talking about. That has to become part of the method, part of the training, right from school, because you build that as part of your process. It just is an opportunity of seeing something bigger, seeing the connections. That's the unlock of creativity, and that's the other side. There is the survival instinct piece, but there is also the expanded consciousness piece, which is super important, maybe even more important from a long-term perspective, because as I've been saying, that it will have to go from human in the loop to human above the loop. For human above the loop, it is going to be about the bigger picture and creativity, and I think spirituality is the unlock for that.
So precisely, I think this is what I also felt, that humans need to elevate themselves in an AI era. And I think ritual to spiritual, and also from reels and TikToks and short attention economy to meditation, thinking hard about the problem and elevating self. I think it needs a lot of human transformation in the AI era.
Yeah.
Because technology will keep learning and become smarter.
Yeah.
With time.
Right. And I love the framing of caveman and the Superman. Right. We need both of these to, to evolve. And I really like what you said about expansion. Right. With expansion comes creativity. That's the way Shakti works. The whole energy principle works based on expansion. Yeah. But technology does the opposite to us. It makes us narrower. I think that's the word you used as well. It keeps us, it reduces us to maybe a few statistics and data points and all of that. That's how we are starting to identify ourselves. But our true nature is something else, right? It could be lot more expansive. And
that's the true human. If you look at intelligence, and which is a very complex word, and you see the difference between human intelligence. What's the fundamental difference and advantage of human intelligence over machine intelligence? It's the breadth, it's the vastness. Because when you talk about narrow intelligence, you can't beat the machine.
Yeah.
And machine, because we have become so dependent on the machine, we are also becoming narrower.
Yeah.
And we are losing our breadth. So if we end up losing that breadth, then what the heck is left?
Yeah.
And so that's exactly.
I love the framing, by the way. So from ANI to AGI to ASI, AI is heading in that direction, and we are going in the opposite direction. Interesting. Yeah. And I now want to shift focus to your books, right? So you've written 3 fascinating books: Winning in the Digital Age, Mastering the Data Paradox, and Human Edge in the AI Age. Did this happen as a trilogy in your head? Did you already know that these are the 3 books that you wanted to write, or did something trigger this one at a time? And what changed inside you as an author? Did something change in your worldview that led you to progress from digital and data, which are arguably technical topics, to more spiritual, more human-centric? Did something change inside you?
It's kind of both. So see, I always knew that I'm going to progress from business and technology to spirituality. So I knew that, and I think even beginning of the conversation, that's what I shared with you, that who I am, is both a product of that very Western, IIT, IIM, McKinsey, Fidelity, all of that, which is the very, very Western method, which is where the structured problem solving and business and technology aspect of me comes in. And equally is the meditation and Bhagavad Gita and Vivekananda and all of that, which is where the spiritual core for me comes from. So it's both. And, my worldview, and which is kind of all, in a subtle way underlying all of my 3 books, is that how do you use, the timeless knowledge that we have to solve 21st century problems. That's a core thought process. Now, the reality is I also run a business and I want that business to also succeed. Yeah. So initially it was a lot that. And as I progressed, I think you would see that the spiritual aspect has become more. Yeah. So that's kind of like at a meta level. Now, it's interesting that, I never really thought that I would really be an author. Though I have always loved giving gyan. so right from an early age, from college. So, very humbly, I've had a blog called, Nitin's Fundas. Okay. So for a long time. And so, a couple of years back when COVID happened, our head of marketing came and said that, hey, you write so much. Why don't we put this together into a nice coffee table book? It will be a nice gift for our clients. So I said, oh yeah, that's a good idea. I put it together, and this guy was very entrepreneurial, and he took it to like the top 10 publishers in the world. And when Penguin said yes, I became really serious that, okay, this is, I don't want to embarrass myself, that, what the heck have I done? So that's how the first book happened. It happened during COVID. There was zero marketing. There was zero anything. It became a bestseller. And I think that kind of gave me confidence that this is real. And I think from there, then in digital, the natural swing factor was data. Yeah. Because my first book, the topic was that, digital transformation, there are billions or other trillions of dollars being spent, but 70-80% of these programs don't meet their initial ROI goals. Why is that? So that was the inquiry. And then, over a period of time, data ended up as being the hero or the culprit. So that was my second book. And that was very heavily research driven and intense effort. And I think that ended up being quite successful. And then the trifecta became very clear. I think where, Deepak, we started the conversation, that digital data AI became very clear. Yeah. But, when I began to reflect on AI, I realized very quickly that this was not just a business technology topic. This is a very, very big debate, has huge implications, overall for humanity, but certainly for India, which is what I really, really care about. And I want to get, my thoughts out, So the third book has a lot more of that missionary zeal to it. But, I think the common things across all of my work is that technology, but, I also make a case that, technology is not the end, it's a means, and we, the issue with technology is that we often lose sight to what is the impact. Yep. So I think that's one common theme. I think the second common theme is that it's not just about technology, it's a bigger change, from technology. It's a bigger picture about the business and the organization, but it's also at a human level. And, a frame which I used in my second book, which says, it's a Sanskrit phrase which says, Yatha Pinde, Tatha Brahmande, Yatha Brahmande, Tatha Pinde, which very simply what it says is that as is the universe, so is the atom, as is the atom, so is the universe. As above, so below. Yes. Yep. So, whatever you say for the enterprise is also true for the society, is also true for the individual. And I think that's generally how I think about it. Yeah. So those are some themes. And finally, I think it is, what also drives me is that, I think this is such a big opportunity for India, technology. And today we have just been playing a very important role in the entire value chain, but realizing very little value.
Right.
Yeah. So it's kind of like the classic 80-20.
Yeah.
Do 80% of the job, realize less than 20% of the value. And I think that's what I'm trying to do in my small way. That, how do we get that bigger picture across? So that, why can't we flip the 80-20?
Yeah.
What is so difficult about it? So yes, those are some of the common themes, which are driving my work.
Awesome. Fascinating to hear that.
So as we go towards the concluding part, Nitin, I think you painted a picture of an era where every industry, every role, and even many of our long-held assumptions about what humans do uniquely, and that probably will survive the test of time. I think everything is under the scanner today. White-collar knowledge work, I think you mentioned, probably are at risk 1:10.
In the short term.
Yeah, and I think they're the most vulnerable too, because I think we've been hearing and reading about a lot of firing that's happening. I think typically these are all white-collar jobs, your contact center, assistants, operations, things which are more routine and unrepeatable.
Software developers.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think, but at the same time, we are even seeing that all your data security models itself are getting reinvented because attackers are using AI faster than
Yes.
enterprises are. I think we are also seeing the era of quantum now. So between quantum and AI, I think this disruption could be even more faster from security, privacy, risk, all this we are looking. So I think while we all know that enterprises with adoption can leapfrog on their productivity, change their business model, also we are seeing that skill sets are becoming obsolete in months. So I think we are also seeing very short shelf life of either you scale up, create value, or keep learning to find where the next source of value is. I think these are so many variables around us. It's like famously Jeff Bezos said, tell me a constant and I can build my business model around it.
Yeah.
I think here we are dealing with everything that is a moving variable. And even organizations are thinking about the whole organization structure itself as to how should they be thinking about design of organization going forward. So with all this happening, is anyone even safe? And what will truly remain durable or become more valuable, especially in the era when we are living in an era of rather, I would say, constant disruption?
Look, I don't know if I would anchor Deepak on the word safe. If that's what, we put as the goal seek, then I think we'll be very disappointed.
But humans need a lot of
stability.
Safety is still one of the tenets of a human being, right? Maybe some of us are prepared for a world which is changing, but a lot of humans around us are not.
I think
when somebody is taking a 15-year mortgage, he hopes that he'll continue to repay, and thereby he's betting on his income and the security, right? So
yeah, I don't disagree. But I think the more we try to make things risk-proof, the more risky it becomes. I think the greatest risk in this AI, the era of AI disruption, is not taking risk, is my submission. So I don't think that option exists. Okay, and that if we are looking for some safe harbors, that there is like this nuclear war happening, but I find these some bunkers, which are safe. So I think that will be very tough to find. But equally, I think the question of durable. See, I think that's a very good question to ask. That what are the skills, or how do you anchor yourself, both as an individual and as an enterprise? I think that's a very fair question, and I'll share my perspectives on that. I think at an individual level, it is about committing yourself to continuous learning. Of the 8 mantras in my possible framework, and I mentioned it multiple times, actually the O, which is openness to change, and which is also then the corollary is continuous learning, I think is the most important one, because you said it that the half-life of specific skills is going down, from years, from 10 years to 2 years to months. So then the only way to survive is the biggest skill is learning to learn. How do you build that skill of of learning new things very, very quickly, and that does require that rewiring, which I think you also mentioned, which is that how do you expand your kind of span from just the very momentary satisfaction of a tweet and so on, to be able to stay with the topic for a period of time and to learn. So I would submit that for the individual, the learning to learn is super critical. That's what you have to anchor on. Then around that, anchor on the more other durable skills, which are problem solving. Rajiv, you spoke about that. Which is the human interaction, because that connection is still going to be super valuable. We spoke about spirituality and the spiritual method. See, that's the possible framework. There is a logic to the possible framework, and if you read the byline, it says 8 timeless skills. So that's the Bezos quote is exactly what I've tried to focus on, because in a world of tremendous change, you have to anchor on what will not change.
Yeah.
And then that's exactly my point, that these are the timeless things. So from an individual perspective, I think that's some food for thought. I think from an enterprise perspective, at least the way I'm thinking about it, Deepak, it's not to say that I have it all figured out, is that the most important thing are my customers. The technology comes later. And my response over the year has been to just get even closer to my customers. Because if I understand, because everybody is going through this exactly this thing, the closer you are to your customers and more deeply you understand their customer, their business, their needs and challenges, that is your best chance.
Yeah.
That's your best chance. Because that's hugely valuable. It's like everybody is in this.
Absolutely. I think I concur. And as you were speaking, I was just thinking aloud that probably the value equation, what that value is will keep changing, but the value as an equation won't change.
Yes.
Between customer and enterprise, or employee and an employer. I think as we keep finding how you create value all the time,
Right.
Be it through adaptability, skill, finding out new source of value.
See, the fundamental...
But yeah, like value is something that I'm sure a conversation like this, if people who are listening to it, they find it valuable, they will come back and listen to it more, even though a lot of this content may be sprinkled around, right? So,
but it's again, I think that Bezos quote, I'm a huge fan of that. I'm a huge fan of that. And in a world which is in complete flux, if you can anchor both individually, organizationally, and as a society on things, which are going to be, timeless or anchored, that's our best chance.
So quite a few dots got connected for me in today's conversation. The Bezos quote, I never looked at it from a spirituality angle. This conversation, brought in a different dimension, because in many ways, spiritual traditions are talking about find the unchanging substratum.
Yes.
Everything else is changing.
Absolutely.
And from a business lens, and that's what Bezos is talking about, that connect happened just in the last 2 minutes. So thanks for that question, Deepak. And really a fascinating conversation. So I just want to push the boundaries a little bit, if we have a little bit more time, is what is going to happen to governments as we look at it, and the concept of money itself. Because while many of these things around, if you say we are entering into an era of no jobs, what's going to happen to the society? What will happen to the concept of money? And in democracies, elections are being won based on job creation. So what will happen to democracies are maybe other regimes around the world that are more dictatorial. Do they have a better chance of success in the age of AI?
Yeah, Rajiv, very big questions. See, there's I've been trying to have this conversation, both in India and the US, and I've generally seen that, policymakers are not super keen to engage in this conversation, because it's a very scary conversation.
Yeah.
It's a very scary conversation, because this whole scenario of large-scale job disruption is very threatening to order.
Universal basic income, the
Yeah.
conversations that's
Yeah,
happening
is the
around now.
universal basic income. So see, I would still like urge that we have to put in a fight. We can't just submit to a kind of a view which is saying that there is going to be value creation, but by very few, extraordinary value creation by few, but most will actually lose jobs, and then we will have universal basic income, which is going to be applied in some fashion. I just see that that's a world which is going to collapse into first internal strife, and then conflict between nations. Maybe the concept of nations itself will get challenged. I would still think that there is a way out, which is this shift in mindsets from jobs to entrepreneurship, and which is embrace this early man and Superman kind of philosophy, and we unleash the tsunami of entrepreneurship. I still I think that's a much better future. But look, there are many implications that we need to think through.
Right.
Yeah, and that's also I won't necessarily say that is exactly my next book, but I think the implication of an AI native world, what does it mean for enterprises, what does it mean for at an individual level, what does it mean for us as a society, that's something I begin to think about, because it is certainly going to change, but just on a lighter note, as a kid, who grew up reading a lot of science fiction, I just see, that kind of coming true in a bizarre way.
Yeah.
And Deepak, you also mentioned quantum. So then if I put together AI and quantum and progress also in biotechnology, and therefore as humans, we are going to live longer and so on. I think all of this points to a massive thrust on space exploration over the next 20, 30, 40 years, without doubt to my mind, because whatever we do, even with the tsunami of entrepreneurship, I think it is going to be a net kind of gap in terms of humans being productively engaged on Earth.
Right.
So I think that will create tremendous push for expansion.
Awesome.
No, I think it's a great conversation. We could have continued going on and on. It's so wonderful. We touched on so many topics, right from spirituality to job to strategy to the famous Trimurti analogy, finding where the value is. And I think what wouldn't change. Insightful conversation. As I think we were speaking, one thing reminded me a very small story about someone asked an atheist, "Do you believe in God?" And he asked why. And he said, if there is no God and you don't believe in a God, it's okay. But God forbid if there's God and you don't believe in God, then you are in trouble. I think the world around AI is similar, because a lot of people still believe that it's a hype. But if it does become what it promises to be, I think individual societies, enterprises and nations would be in trouble. And I think nobody better than that to bring an alarming urgency to this through your book and through this conversation. So thank you very much for this. It was a privilege having you on the show.
Absolutely, Nitin. I echo whatever Deepak has mentioned. Truly insightful. For me, the big takeaways will be, unlocking or unpacking two spirits within us. One is the caveman, the other is Superman. I think that's going to stay with me. And the possible framework, which you capture in the book as well, I think it's timeless, right? There's something about it that resonates so deeply. So I learned quite a bit on that as well. I think you've straddled a wide spectrum of topics today, from science to data, the trifecta, as Deepak mentioned, taking it all the way to spirituality and the quest for building better human consciousness, right? And what can be India's contribution to that? So yeah, I'm ending this episode deeply inspired and energized. Thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you to both of you. Very, very, very thoughtful conversation. Which also every conversation I also learn. And I think that's, you had asked me somewhere that what has shifted in my journey of writing books, that I think it started with that I know a lot which I have to share, and then I have realized that this is actually a process of learning. So
Right.
this conversation also was a learning conversation for me. So I want to thank both of you. I just want to from my side, the message maybe for the audience, that there is a lot happening. But I would say that the future is uncertain, but not to be feared. The future can be created. It's game on. The future can be created. The future is possible.
Awesome. Awesome. Great. Thank you so much for this. Game on is the other one that I'm picking up from this conversation. So those of us who are watching this, you know what to do: like, share, subscribe. And if you feel this content could be useful for your friend, family members, colleagues, please do share it with them. And we are unlocking new insights with every single conversation we are having with our guests. Deepak,
Until next time, stay curious.
stay curious.